What's up, boys? It's the Duel Factory once again with another video, and I've been trying to do these out every single one of my days off, so that way I have consistent material for you guys. But this week, I'm going to be bringing you one of the first deck profiles I've been wanting to do from the Genesis Impact set since I finally got my stuff, and that's the Magistus Shaddoll. I actually had another Saturday off, so I went to go play this deck again. I went 3-1, losing only to Virtual World, and that's because I couldn't find a way to actually fuse that game. But he also couldn't find a way to make VFD, but he did find a way to make Shinshin before I did. So, that being said, I actually really like the deck. After playing it in an actual tournament setting, I'd probably change a couple things with it, just because I think you can make it more consistent. And I'm also currently not playing Mathematician in this build, which I think now, after seeing a couple deck profiles other than my own, I should probably play that card as a normal summon because we have access to Artemis. And I also play, for some reason I play the Dogmatika cards just because I really like them, but I think this build doesn't require the Dogmatika cards anymore. But enough about that. Before we get into deck profile, I'm going to let you know that this week's episode of X2 Drop, if you guys wasn't listen avidly, we didn't do it this week. John's out of town, so we couldn't record it. We should be up and running again next week, hopefully, so stay tuned for that. And without further ado, let's get into the deck profile. So to start off for the Magistus part, it's actually a very, very small engine because we only played this as one of the normal summons. Riliona, the Magistus of Vere, or whatever, I don't know how to pronounce it, I just know that's the name. More or less, it fulfills the same role as in the Invoke Shaddoll list, where Alistair essentially is a polymerization, so the deck can actually start playing. What makes this better, though, is the polymerization that you can search. 1, can use monsters from the field where Invocation cannot. 2, it also doesn't take up more extra deck slots by having to play invoked monsters, because if you play Alistair the Invoker Invocation, you have to play cards like Mechaba, you have to play cards like Purg, and you have to play Oigades, and that makes your extra deck really, really tight. So that gives you a little bit more freedom to play this, so I think it is a better normal summon currently. It's also, Alistair is a dark attribute and requires extra deck monsters to turn into a light attribute, where Riliona does not. Riliona is a light monster, so it makes making Construct turn 1 a lot easier. Other than that, the downfall of this card is we don't get to play cards like Magical Meltdown, which that card is insane in this deck, so that's probably one of like the cons of not having this, so that's probably why people would still gravitate towards the Invoked Shaddoll list. But other than that, I think this card's a fantastic normal summon. It was really good. I saw it consistently, and that's it for that monster. Then for the Shaddoll monsters, we play 3 copies of Wendy. It is the best one to fuse with. Not much to say there. 1 copy of Ariel. It's necessary for a lot of matchups now. I thought about playing 2, but for right now I'm just comfortable with 1. And then we also play 3 copies of Shaddoll Squamata. It's the second best one to fuse with. Not much to say there. If you start playing Shaddoll Core, which I think people would, also let you search spell and trap cards fairly easily too, so keep that in mind. 2 copies of Hedgehog. It's one of the better ones to fuse with because you get a monster search out of it. 2 copies of Beast. Arguably, you could probably play 1, but I like having 2 copies because I did play a Shaddoll Mirror match, and this card does come up in that matchup. And then 1 copy of Dragon. I cannot wait till we get supers of this. That's it for the Shaddoll monsters. And then for the Dogmatika cards, I played 1 Ecclesia, 1 Fleur-de-Lis. I just really like these cards because it's a real easy way, especially going second, to add additional pressure onto the board because it's just a free 5k damage. Plus, if you go first, if you open Nadir Servant with your Magistus cards, it's a really, really nice turn 1 setup. For my kind of saucy tech for the deck, I am playing 1 Eldritch the Golden Lord, mainly because you can send it off Shaddoll Fusion. So that way you have a free light monster you can send off. Plus, it's another way for you to actually push damage on the board because you can send a Schism after you used it for the turn to the graveyard, and then you can push for an additional 35 with Golden Lord. If they're still alive, you can link off with Construct or whatever fusion monster you have on the field, and you can add back the Shaddoll Schism. So it's just a really nice tech I like sending off of Shaddoll Fusion, and I think I'm going to continue to play it because it actually did a lot of work for me because there's a lot of times where I was like short like a couple thousand points, and then I was just able to resurrect Golden Lord and just push for game, so I think the card's really good. And then on to some of the hand trap. I only played 6. I played 3 copy of Nibiru, the Primal Being. More or less, I wanted a high impact hand trap. That was also a light monster, and this fit the bill perfectly. And then I'm playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. It's a really, really nice generic hand trap for the format right now. Although the big difference with this list, if I were to play this again, 1, I'd probably cut the Dogmatika cards currently, and I'd probably just play more hand traps and maybe Mathematician, but I'm not 100% sure yet. Then on to the fusion spells. The best fusion spell in your deck is 3 copies of Shaddoll Fusion. Going second, this card is insane. Not much to say. I only played 1 copy of El Shaddoll Fusion this week. I didn't think, 1, the fusion was that necessary, and I can grab it whenever I needed to. Plus, we're playing the copies of Magistus Invocation. This could change, But right now, I think only one's necessary right now. And then 2 copies of Magistus Invocation. This is the one that you search over Reliona. It also lets you fusion summon Magistus fusion monsters by using monsters in your extra monster zone. Not extra monster zone, but equipped zone. But I don't play the fusion because I don't think it's necessary, so that's it. And then, my favorite card in Yu-Gi-Oh!, but I'm probably going to cut it from this list after playing it, is going to be 3 copies of Nadir Servants. I just think more hand traps and 2 additional normal summons, maybe 3, don't know. It's going to be better than playing the Dogmatika stuff in this deck, but I really like the card, so I wanted to play it. And then I also played 1 copy of Foolish Burial. It's just an honorary Shaddoll card. And then for the traps, I wanted a card that was actually really good going first. So I played 3 copies of Sinister Shadow Games. It's just a way to jumpstart your engine going first. But this is also a card that'll probably going to get cut because I cited it out a lot, especially games 2 and 3. But you never know on that one. If I can get him to sit still. Doesn't matter. And then we played 1 copy of Resh and 1 copy of Schism. Not much to say, they're just really good cards. And then because of the Dogmatika cards, I played 1 copy of Punishment. But like I said, Dogmatika cards are probably coming out. So that is it for the main deck. On to the extra deck. So shout out to the head-to-head battle. I actually bought these whenever they first came out. And then I also have the other one too, but they make really good stuff over there. Go check them out. Other than that, we played 3 copies of the Queen herself, 3 copies of Construct. Not much to say. Your Shaddoll strategy goes through 3 Construct very often. It's the best monster to summon on your side of the field. That's why we play a light Rhoda, essentially, so that way we can actually have more access to this card. Yeah, not much to say, fellas. And then we play 2 copies of Wenda. I think it's really good, especially with Schism. You might have an argument to play 3, but I'm just more comfortable playing 2 currently. And then I'm playing 2 copies of Abkalom. It's another really good fusion to make. I like sending off Nadir Servant. Not much to say there. And then 2 cards for Nadir Servant, 1 Titaniclad and 1 Intist. These are usually just the monsters I play for that particular engine. But like I said, these, if I take out the Dogmatika stuff for this list, that's probably coming out as well. And then on to the Link 1s. You need 1 Gravity Controller. It makes your Construct more of a utility. It makes all your Shaddoll monster utility cards. Like I said, it's like 3 weeks to get this card in, but 1 copy of Artemis, the Magistus Moon Maiden. This card is insane. It turns any of your normal summons or normal summonable Shaddoll monsters other than Beast into a light monster so you can fuse off. So if you open a fusion spell and 2 Shaddoll monsters, you're not just forced to go into Wenda or Abkalom, depending on which one. You can actually have the option to go into Construct, and that's really important. 1 copy of Cross Sheep. This is usually a way to start pushing for damage. And then 1 copy of Selene, 1 copy of Unicorn, and 1 copy of Access Code Talker, your game-ending cards. And then I still have the side deck built for this week, so I'll go ahead and show that to you fellas as well. So we're playing 3 copies of Lancia. This is arguably one of the better hand traps this format, and I play it for a Virtual World. You can make the argument that you can play it for Dryton too, because there's some interactions that they have that you need this card for, but other than that, that's what's mainly there for. 3 copies of Drawn Lockbird. It's really cool in this deck because when you draw on Lockbird, your opponent, it puts them on a clock because they either have to play through it or they just die the next turn because your Shaddoll deck can put up so much damage. I play 3 board wipes or back row removal cards and 2 Lightning Storm and 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. Not much to say there. And then to add to that theme, I also play 3 copies of Evenly Matched. The card's really good this format, especially with the lack of negations being thrown up on boards, so bear that in mind. And then my tech, because it was really good in 2015 in this deck, was 3 copies of Mistake. Your deck actually plays significantly well without having to search, even with the Dogmatika cards in your deck, because you can send Ecclesia off Shaddoll Fusion, which a lot of people don't realize that. And the reasoning behind that is because Nadir Servant can add from your graveyard back to hand. So people tell you that your Nadir Servant can't activate, they're 100% wrong, because it can add from graveyard back to hand. So you can still play your Nadir Servant and still get the pluses off of it. But that was my we'll say, Magistus Dogmatika Shaddoll deck list. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hopefully we'll have the podcast back up and running again this week when John gets back in from town. And if nothing else, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.